What's a common rule that you break regularly because you fundamentally disagree with it?
Jaywalking. If the street is obviously clear, I'm not going to wait for nothing.
I feel safer crossing in the middle of a block. I only have 2 directions to worry about, not 4 directions, and if they are going straight or turning.
My mom crosses on her right-of-way with the pedestrian light. She does not look up or down the street, only at the light. As a very young child, I thought it was unsafe. I'm surprised she's still alive.
Rules about pirating content that I am geographically restricted from streaming legally.
I just commented this on another piracy response further up, but it's more relevant here, so it's insane when they try to section off certain content for different parts of the world. Come on, the internet hypes everyone up at the same time. Marketing spills over across the ocean, and not letting a different part of the world see the thing you're marketing locally is just a waste. Oftentimes, people will have lost interest by the time they try to half-assedly remarket it in different territories, and it's difficult to reboot hype after the wave dies down the first time. So again, to see the thing while they're still excited for it, people will pirate it if it's not made available.
The CBC made Anne with an E in collaboration with Netflix, Canadian show about one of the most beloved Canadian stories. The episodes would release first on Netflix everywhere but in Canada, where we would sometimes have to wait half a year for the CBC to air them.
If you cannot access a TV series or movie legally in your country, then why should anyone stop you from pirating it?
Years ago, DirecTV, or one of those satellite streamers, tried to sue Canadians who hacked their system, but the judge ruled that it wasn't stealing because the product wasn't for sale in Canada and therefore had no value.
Rules against pirating arcade games that can't be found.
And rules against reading pirated novels that can't be found.
This is a big one. Lots of really great books just don't get released outside of the US, and the literal only way to read them is through piracy.
When I was a teenager, I read a lot of manga, and the only way to read a lot of the less popular ones was fan-made scanlations. Someone would get a hold of the RAWs from Japan, scan them, then a team would translate them and Photoshop the English text over the original Japanese characters and upload them online. It was interesting because there'd be varying levels of localization, so some groups would leave certain Japanese terms as they were and leave a note in the margin about it, while others would come up with a more Western-friendly term.
If the manufacturer doesn't make it available in an affordable and meaningful way, then what else can you but break the law a little?
If you do it like Nintendo to not make you games available in other form whatsoever, then you should pirate the hell out of them. What do they fear? Lose money something they don't try to make money on?
I have a pretty substantial library of PlayStation games on my PC that I can't find anymore. Is it illegal? Yes. Do I give a shit? No.
At one point, you stop being a pirate and become an archivist.
YouTube Terms of Service says I can't block ads. The day they can stop me is the day I stop watching YouTube. Edit. 8,000 upvotes. And yet there's a lot of copium in this thread over me still blocking ads.
Same lol. They even threw a pop-up scolding me for it in Firefox. The fuck you gonna do, YouTube? Lol.
YouTube is now actively doing anything that they can to make your life worse if you use ad blocker. They have been coding the website to redline your CPU to slow it down if you use ad blocker. Edit. News is surfacing suggesting this was an ad block code error. Disregard the article. Getting scientific papers from Sci-Hub. It's a total scam that publishers charge for what our government tax dollars pay for. The public should have all of those papers for free. We paid for them. On top of that, it is perfectly legal for authors to send you a copy via email or even snail mail if you ask them for it. If publishers really can't make money without charging for reprints, then they need to find a new business model or go out of business, and the papers should all just get put up on a government-run website for free. I don't give a lab rat's ass if Nature or Science are the premier publications and therefore claim to have to charge for reprints to justify their existence. It's total bullshit. And I get it that tenure relies on having a mechanism for recognizing the most important papers, but that should not come at the expense of the taxpayer.
Remember, the researchers hate their publisher as much as you do.
I have published 30+ papers, a couple in very prestigious medical journals. The other day, I couldn't even access my own paper because our institutional login, for some reason, doesn't have access to the latest issue. The whole process is a joke and a huge burden on free sharing of scientific knowledge. I even review papers for free for the journal. Sci-Hub has been amazing. I always use it instead of official access, but lately they seem to not have as many of the newest pubs.
Do not discuss salary with colleagues or people outside this company. Fuck that. Edit. Phew. To be clear, I am not part of the US and not really part of the EU. The act of discussing pay is not legally protected here. It may be in the future, though.
Yeah, that's a game to keep you from having a negotiating platform for a raise.
I love to talk about salary with people. I'm a data analyst with a BA and 2 years experience, and I make $81,800. If we don't talk about salaries, it will enable our employers to financially take advantage of us.
When the sensor at a traffic light doesn't pick up my car while I'm waiting for a left turn and the light rotation skips over me. It happens all the time at one set of lights I go through to get home, especially late at night. I'd say it misses me 25% of the time. I once sat at the light for over 10 minutes to record it, skipping over me multiple times. Middle of the night, not a single other car on the road. It happens so often that I usually just run the red arrow if nobody is around. It's a wide open area around the intersection, so I can see a few hundred yards in all directions. I know it's breaking the law, but common sense and personal responsibility should make doing this a lot more acceptable. I shouldn't be held hostage by a malfunctioning traffic light late at night when nobody else is on the road.
Had a cop walk up to our window once when we had been waiting for a light multiple rounds. He had been behind us. Knocks. Just go, guys, I don't care.
And you have one of the rare cases where it would actually be entrapment if he then ticketed you. Woo!
If I find cash on the ground, I'm not going to give it to the authorities.
100% this, especially if the authority in question is a private business. I worked at GameStop when I was younger. A gentleman waited in a Christmas time at the mall length line to give me a $50 bill he'd found on the ground and asked me to hold it in case the owner came looking for it. I thanked him. Immediately after he left, my manager said that if the person didn't claim it, it would be given to the store and put in the nightly deposit. I said fuck that and made it disappear shortly afterwards. After my shift, I went and bought a few homeless folks some hot dinners. Figured that was more in the spirit of the gentleman who brought it in. And fuck just giving a multi-billion-dollar company $50 when it can do a lot more good.
I found $2,600. Got it legally after 90 days.
I found a bank bag once when I was smoking outside work. The police were arresting someone in our parking lot, so I figured it was related and gave it to them. I didn't count the money, but did check to see if it was empty. It was full of hundreds and twenties. It turned out to be unrelated to the arrest, but the police took it anyway. A couple of days later, I saw the owner of a glass shop close to where I found the bag, and he said one of his employees did lose a bank bag. I told him the police had it. He called them, and he did get it all back. I was amazed. I was certain it'd have gone to the police coffee fund.
If you see that your friend has forgotten to zip up their fly, don't embarrass them by announcing it. Just zip it for them.
I once visited a client with a coworker, and as we got out of our car, I turned my back to her and said, "Is my zipper zipped?" And I meant my backpack. She had her back to me and thought I meant my pants and that it was going to turn into an uncomfortable conversation. Once we turned toward each other to see what the awkward silence was, laughter ensued, and we still talk about it almost 10 years later.
I'm so tired of the subscription world we live in now. I basically just pirate everything. I used to still buy the discs, but many movies don't get released in UHD, so what's the point of even looking? I don't want to stream compressed 4K, and I certainly don't want to worry about whether or not the company pulls the movie from their service or just stops it altogether.
I about lost my shit when Microsoft Office became subscription-based.
I looked at how much it would cost me for a year and donated that amount to LibreOffice purely out of spite.
Lying on your resume. I'm not talking about completely lying that you worked at Google for 2 years when you didn't. That's a little much. But in reality, I have gaps between many jobs due to either unemployment or just needing a damn break between jobs. But on my resume, I have consecutively been employed with no gaps my entire career. I feel like recruiters see gaps as a red flag, and sometimes your resume doesn't make it far enough to even explain the gaps, even if they're completely harmless gaps. In regard to background checks for new jobs, I've personally still passed all of mine with no issues. To my knowledge, the agency conducting the background checks can only verify information you give them yourself, not the employer. So I simply don't provide exact dates, just the year I worked at whatever place. Of course, this could backfire, but so far so good over here. Edit. I fundamentally disagree with it because employers lie about the job description all the time. What you actually end up doing rarely matches what they pitch you.
Yep, I once had an overly literal friend who was really stressed applying for a job because in the job ad, it said they wanted someone who had 2 years experience in X industry. He said he only had 1 year and 10 months, and he didn't know what to do. I said, just round it up to 2 years. As long as you are proficient in what they want, it doesn't matter. I throw away the mail of the people who lived in my apartment before me rather than taking it to the post office every single day. If they wanted their mail, they would have filled out a change of address form.
The first year I had my P.O. box, I got a bunch of what I assume were Christmas cards, all addressed to the same woman. I figured she must have had the box before me, so I took the letters and posted on the local Facebook page, tracked her down, and gave them to her directly so I'd be sure she got them. I assumed this would prompt her to formally change her mailing address, or at least let her friends know they had the wrong one. I've gotten her Christmas cards every single year since. Sorry, Bonnie. I'm not tracking you down every December. Return to sender.
There is no difference between being at work at 8 a.m. and 8 to 10 a.m., especially when it's not shift work and there's no one waiting for you to arrive so they can leave. In every job I've had, they always gripe about being right on time at 8 a.m. And then you have hovering managers looking at the door to see who's late at 8:02 a.m. I am always at work, but I will not be there at 8 a.m. on the dot for the next 25 plus years of my life. It makes no difference. Making the bed. Why would I make my bed all neat if I'm just going to mess it up again at the soonest opportunity? As long as nothing is sliding off the bed, then it's fine.
I agree with you, but would like to point out that a lot of people make the bed as a psychological hack to achieve something at the beginning of the day.
Don't date where you work. You spend nearly a third of your waking hours at work. You learn about the people you work with over weeks, months, and years and have a much better idea of compatibility than with a random club or dating app meetup. Passing on the right. There's been an absolute epidemic recently of people camping in the left lane, driving slow as fuck, and it makes me irrationally furious. I had a friend who drove slow in the left lane on the highway, and every time I was like, "You should get over," she was like, "Nope, I'm going the speed limit." She did not give a fuck, and I wanted to slap her every time.
Maybe not totally on point, but if I have a device that breaks just out of warranty, I will often buy a new one and just return the old one. I know two wrongs don't make a right, and it's fraud. But as far as I'm concerned, selling me something that breaks within 1 year for the price of something that should last at least 5 years is legalized fraud. So I'm just cheating them like they cheat me. I do try and give the company a chance to honor their device regardless of the stated warranty, but if not return it, it goes.
Tipping everywhere. Not exactly a rule, but I ain't gonna tip where I haven't received an actual service where someone has to go out of their way to do something for me. I don't care if I get mean looks for it.